So it is my honor to introduce our 2021 Trailblazers and Innovators Awardee, Dr. Ainsley Abraham. I have known Dr. A for a while, as he is affectionately known. And I'm not going to tell any stories because he's probably got at least 20 on me. So when you have that type of relationship, you just keep your mouth shut and keep smiling. So, but Dr. A is awesome. And in his more formal role, he acts as the director for our state doctoral scholars program for the Southern Regional Education Board. So I know what you're saying. We're in Indiana. We are not Southern and part of the Southern region. We're not, but we are an affiliate institution, which allows our students to be able to take advantage of this program. And particularly, they're able to take advantage of the Institute on Teaching and Mentoring. And that is the largest gathering of minority PhD scholars in the nation. And for so many of our minority scholars, they look around the room and they don't see anybody that looks like them. But when they go to the Institute on Teaching and Mentoring, they look around the room and everybody looks like them. And it's an amazing space to be in, and an amazing space to network in, and to just have like-minded people, comrades, and people who really understand what navigating a PhD at this level is like. So I want to give Dr. A all of his time so that he can talk to us about the pandemic, social injustice, insurrection, and surviving this academic school year. And I know that we're not only surviving, but we're also thriving through this school year. So excited about that. Dr. Roper mentioned his talk on this evening. I'm going to drop the link for that in the chat. So encourage your mentors to come out and attend. You also come back and attend if you have time. And Dr. A, take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Hardy and Dr. Roper. Thank you all very much for first and foremost, for the award and for the recognition. It is, I am humbled, I'll just say that. I am humbled by the recognition. But you all of you need to know that I am very committed to this. It's as it turned out, I've kind of dedicated my life to it. I didn't recognize nor start out to do that, but it certainly has been enormously fulfilling. Something that I hold very dear, not only to professionally but personally. It's something that I'm just passionate about doing, creating opportunities and training for you all to position you to be where we need you to be. There's such an important role that you all need to be playing. Dr. Hardy, I'm going to make one correction to what you said in your introduction, and that is that not only is IUPUI, not only, but IUPUI is not an affiliate, but we are actually partners in this. You all have partnered with us, and it wasn't until I was preparing for this talk over the next couple of days, or talks over the next couple of days, did I realize I didn't realize you just kind of, you're doing your job and it just never stopped to take a look at all the numbers. But IUPUI has been you all are approaching 100 participants in this program over the years, and that's, yeah, give yourselves a hand for that. That is excellent. I think it's up at 73 participants in the program, and that's really good for an institution that's outside of the southern region to have partnered with us over the last few years, to have had as many as 73 participants in the program, and that's really good. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. Okay, so I'm gonna do this share screen thing, and hopefully I can get to the right place, and you all tell me if I'm doing this correctly and got where I wanna go. Okay. You all seeing this?
I'm seeing slides.
Okay, good, all right. So, what we're going to do, and let me just say to all of you, I do want this to be a conversation today. I don't want this to be just a talking head. I want this to be participatory and get your feedback on the things you're experiencing and seeing. But getting started, let me just go in and just tell you a little bit about my background. I'm a Florida State graduate. I am the founder and director of the Doctoral Scholars Program. We put this thing together back in 1993. Some of you I know were very, very young at that time, but I've been doing this for a while. And like I said, I've committed my life to doing it. And this thing is the Doctoral Scholars Program that we put together. And it is an effort and initiative to diversify college faculty, very simply. And then we have a bunch of elements of the program that hope to get us to the point where we're contributing to diversifying the faculty. To date, we've supported 1,840 scholars, 1,140 students have graduated in the program. We have an 86% retention graduation rate in the program. That is, that the students have either graduated or are still moving through the process. One of the other big elements that we have been able to do as a program has been reduce down the time to degree. And all of you going through this process know it's a long process. And it's not one that has to be long, but it is a process that takes folk a while. Nationally, that number is about a little over 7.67 years to complete a PhD. And if you're a minority, it's hovering around 10 years. And we feel that that's too long, and there are things we can do programmatically to get that down. And we put those elements into play in our programming and our processes. And we've been able to cut that down to, for on average, for the students in our program, is a little under 5 years. It's right at actually 4.8 years to earn a PhD through our program. The other important element is getting people to do what we wanted them to do. The goal of the program is to diversify the college faculty. Well, 80% of our scholars at any one time are, and this is pretty consistent, it's been right at 80% for the last 10 years, are in education. They're either faculty, they're administrators, or doing postdoctoral research. So I hope you would agree with me that we're getting it done. And as Dr. Roper said in the introduction, and Dr. Hardy, the linchpin of what we do and how we do things is our Institute on Teaching and Mentoring. We do cast it as the largest gathering of underrepresented minority students in the United States. In 19, and as we were listening to at the beginning, there were a few of you that were on that at that meeting. There were 1,140 participants at that meeting, and there's just not another venue in the country where you get that many underrepresented minority PhD students all in one place and at one time. And so it's a very, very powerful event. All right, enough about me, the program. What I wanted this discussion to be about today. So we titled this session about pandemic, social justice, insurrection. This is a temperature check for you all. To find out how you're doing, how are you managing in this environment. What are you getting through? Are you getting what you need? So I want to pose some questions to you, and I'm looking for responses from you all to engage in this discussion, in this discussion. So number one on my list was, how's the pandemic impacted your graduate experience? What kind of things has it slowed you down, speeded you up? And so I'm looking to you to jump in, speak up. Somebody. So how's it impacted you?
I can start, Dr. Abrams.
Thanks, Latasha.
Latasha Rowley. I'm in School of Education, Urban Education Studies, and it has caused me to shift. My research was going to be critical ethnography, and because of the pandemic, I can't really be in the field like I need to for observations. And my participants are grandmothers, so that population, they're not letting me anywhere close to them.
Closer. I know that.
So I've had to kind of rethink what I'm going to use case study now. It still requires a little bit of observation, but nothing like ethnography. So it's caused me to have to do a major shift.
Good.
My program has been extended. I'm a mother of 2 children, and when they were home from school, I had to be available and make sure that they were completing their assignments and that I had childcare available for them. I also have a lot of undergraduates that work with me and for me, and with their limited access to the laboratory, the work that I do, I needed 6 of me to be able to get everything done at once. So it has extended my stay in my PhD.
Anybody else? Okay, I'm gonna stop this sharing for a moment. I hope you all don't mind, and I can pose the questions to you. And I want to say, both of you, you're not alone in I've talked to others in my program who've had to make those same kind of shifts. Latasha, I too had students call me and had to change their research focus because they're like you, had planned research projects for their dissertations that were going to they were going to need that the same, I mean, exact same kind of thing where your experience where, hey, I needed to talk to people. I had interviews scheduled, and I can't do that in this environment. So they had to shift into different methodologies to do what they wanted to do. So it, in effect, it's going to, for some, it slowed them down. Laura, I've had, in talking about mothers, in our program, we have 67, 68% of our scholars in our program are female, many with kids. And I've heard some just absolute horror stories from scholars who are struggling when you got 2 kids, just like you're saying. I got 2 kids at home, and I'm trying to do the school thing, and I've got my kids at home, and how I manage this. I mean, I was doing some late night counseling with people, trying to talk them off the edge. It's like, how can I do this and maintain my focus in my program, get my work done there, and yet provide the kind of help my kids are now needing, because they're at home with me, and we're all working, trying to do this. And it's been a real struggle. It has been a real struggle.
Dr. Ray, I want to interrupt you here because there's a comment in the chat from Christopher that kind of goes along with this same theme. Christopher says, I definitely feel like the pandemic has slowed my progress. I haven't had significant time in the lab like I had planned when I started this journey. I'm also a parent, and having to tag team childcare with my wife has been challenging.
Yeah, it is, Christopher, Laura, Latasha. I mean, it's been amazing the kinds of ways, depending upon our own personal circumstances, the ways this has really impacted our ability to get through these programs. Now, that said, has your institution, your department's been helpful to you in this process? Because if it's slowing you down, and there's support that has to come with this, then there are things your departments, schools should be doing. Any thoughts on, or any shares that you all would like to share with others on the kinds of things your department has, if you will, has your funding been extended a year? Have you been given extra funding, some things to compensate for these crazy circumstances we've all had to operate under? So Any thoughts, comments on that?
I did put one resource in the chat. We have a grad parent network that
Oh.
meets monthly. And if you are a grad parent, I would encourage you to try to hop on those meetings. It is a completely judge-free zone where parents and grandparents share their tips and tricks of the trade of balancing all of this, because we definitely know that that's a struggle. There's also a campus committee that has started looking into funding for graduate parents, well, actually for parents all over campus. So hoping to hear from those folks again soon. If you are having funding issues, there are a few emergency funds that may still have pockets of money. What we found is that with grad students, a lot of times because of the way financial aid is set up, they want grad students to tap out all of their loans before they issue them federal funds. So that could be an issue, but definitely go back to your departments if you're having funding issues.
Tabitha, I'm glad you mentioned that. Did you all, as an institution, I know because every institution in the United States got some kind of stimulus funds, and if you read the regulations, those funds were directed primarily at undergraduates. But I wanted to know, have any of you taken advantage of, or whether even IUPUI provided some of that assistance? And I guess, Tabby, you're touching on it right now. Some of that assistance to graduate students, because I know it'd been a real problem in some other places because they were looking so hard at the undergraduates, they weren't really giving, if you will, the graduate community. I won't say the time of day, but it certainly wasn't a priority. And and for graduate students, I know y'all are living high on the hog, as having access to additional support, and especially if your program is having to be extended as a result of all this, that's real problematic. So at IUPUI, do you all actually have funds available for graduate students, and do they know about it?
So as I mentioned, with the federal funding, it definitely has to go through our financial aid folks, and they will ask that folks tap out a little bit of their funds. But there are, through our Purdue schools, there's an emergency fund that we've been able to issue some money through that. Also, I'm about to drop the link to the SNAP benefits. I don't know if you guys saw, but we announced it earlier this week that SNAP benefits, they have changed how they are doing that. And so they temporarily expanded it to include students that are enrolled at least half-time in school. And so take a look to see if you are eligible for SNAP benefits. I know that's super helpful. Also, remember, we have our Office of Student Advocacy and Support that can also provide support for you in an emergency situation. We have a pause pantry that is available to you to go get food. Pause closet that's also available to you, so you can go get clothes that have been lightly used, and some of it is pretty new. I actually got a nice bracelet off of myself, but utilize those resources because we're certainly here to support you in whatever way we possibly can.
It is really good to hear you describe some of the things that the institution is doing. I will tell you all, not all institutions are doing all those things. I guess I think it's fair to say everybody's doing something, but it's very limited, and it's institution by institution. I've talked to some to scholars at institutions where they've got some extensive efforts going, like you all do here. You've got a lot of ways you're trying to reach out and touch and sure up students so they're not in jeopardy of falling out of the program, because that would be the real tragedy of all of this for all of us if some of you had to quit because of it. You know, to get this community to this level, just think of what it takes and how many are lost by the wayside along this journey. And you know, when we, and the same kind of attitude I have with my program, when we get a student to the PhD level, the investment has been so great in terms of the financial investment, the human capital that's gone into it, of not just you but others who, you know, that were lost along the way. When we get you there, we can't afford to lose you for the wrong kinds of reasons. I always say that. You know, there are right reasons to be lost, but when you get to this level, we just can't afford to lose you for the wrong kinds of reasons. And when you're struggling, when there are other things outside of, you know, your desire and your academic acumen to get a PhD, to as many of those holes as we can plug to help you stay on that journey, we want to be able to plug. Well,
So
what about
Dr. A, can I interrupt here?
Yes, please.
There's another comment in the chat that I think is really pertinent that I want to read. This is from Denise. She says, I didn't get much lab time in either when we were off campus because of the pandemic. When we were able to come back on campus, I felt I needed to do everything because I wasn't sure if we would be locked down again.
Yeah, and I think that's very realistic feeling for those who are in the lab sciences. I mean, I think that I've gotten the same kind of sentiment from some of my other scholars, and those who've been, you know, had experiments running. I mean, this has had, depending upon your field of study, some very uneven outcomes. But it is certainly, I mean, but you know, if you're one of the ones that's impacted, it's very real. I'll say it to you that way. And just trying to figure out how to navigate it is difficult. You know, and all of you do understand there is no roadmap, if you will, of how you navigate and negotiate your way through it. You need to lean on people. You lean on this community. I'm hoping you all are meeting and talking with one another outside of these kinds of get-togethers, but we're having these kind of get-togethers, so you do get to see some of the same names and people that hopefully you can connect with and strategize of how you navigated these things. Let me just ask you, and on departmentally, what are some of the kinds of things that your departments have done to try to help you navigate this? Can you all share some of the things at the departmental level that have gone on? Anybody? Any thoughts?
In our
Anybody's
department,
department doing anything?
yeah, well, in our department, we have set up some writing groups, some small writing groups. It's Zoom, which, I mean, you know, that's all we can do right now, but at least
Right.
that keeps us accountable and keeps us moving forward. You know, just because we have that weekly check-in on our writing.
Good. And that's,
Tiara,
yeah,
Tiara, I think
that's
you
a
had a
great
comment?
strategy. I'm sorry, go ahead, Randall.
No, Tiara had a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you're muted, Tiara. Nope,
We still can't hear you. You might have to put it in the chat.
While she's getting set up, I do want to let you know that we have a weekly writing group. I'm going to put that info in the chat as well. Hours of fun.
Good. You know, one of the things that it is, just listening to the things that Dr. Hardy is describing that they're doing, the institution is doing, I want to make sure all of you do not overlook the resources that your institution does make available to you, because sometimes it is students just don't know about it. It's not that the institution is ignoring you or hasn't done things that they do, but you're not in the right circles or you're not tapped into the right line of questioning to identify the resources that the institutions do have available to you. And I would certainly encourage you to take advantage of them. One of the things I have observed over the years and continue to is that many times institutions do provide the services are addressing that address students' needs, but because students of color tend to feel as outsiders, they don't avail themselves of those services. You know, I'm encouraging you all to take advantage of what the institutions do. Now, if they don't do it well and they bungle it, that's fine. You can complain about it and make that point. But institutions do try to do the right things, and sometimes, you know, we exclude ourselves from the services that are available, and you know, it doesn't help us get to where we want to get to. The services are there, and I'm just telling you, I'm encouraging you all to look around to make sure that some of the things you need, your institution isn't already providing those in some way, shape, or form, and to tap your networks to find out if they know of things with that the institution might be providing. Tiara, are you working yet?
Can you hear me now?
Ah, yes, there we go. Good job.
Okay. Yeah, and also I was like, this is kind of a complaint, so I didn't really want to type it. But I have noticed that in the effort to help, sometimes my department has kind of reinforced some of the little problems that were bubbling up, like maybe a lack of you know, professor engagement with students, a lack of access to changing, you know, or being involved with the wheels of power as business continues. These kind of these updates of things that have happened, of big changes that are happening, and then also encouraging students to seek out resources, but not necessarily changing things within the department and the way the department works and communicates in order to better facilitate our new reality. And so it's kind of weird. I'm also in kind of a helping discipline. It's kind of weird to have people that seem like they're doing the right thing, or a situation where it seems like there's resources, but somehow nobody can access them. Just my experience.
And you are making sure that they know that your department knows that, and I mean, you're bringing up a very legit point, and one that there's a great article before we get off. In today's Chronicle, there's a really good article on faculty diversity that covers some of what you're just talking about. Institutions that are making changes, or on the surface it looks like it, but as the thing you just talked to, yeah, it looks good, but when you peel the onion back just a little bit, you're not. there's no real change taking place, or as you just put it, if no one has access to it, you know, what good are you doing? Looks good, but if your students can't access it, or are not accessing it for whatever reason, then that's a problem. You know, and it's a problem that the folk in departments have a responsibility, quite honestly, to address. You know, and you know, of course, whether there's the will to do that is a whole different matter.
Kind of. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Dominic. Yes.
So I work in a building that is off of the main campus, so I'm a little bit further away and disconnected from some resources. But everyone from our department institute are all in the same building. And to the same thing as Tiara's point, I feel like during the pandemic, there were a lot of needs that needed to be addressed that either came up or had been going on for a while. And the kind of Zoom landscape I feel like has given my department permission to just like throw a Zoom meeting on it. And then like, that's where it ends, right? So like we have a Zoom meeting where like maybe 1/10 of the people who actually need the help show up. Most people leave early and most people's cameras are off. And then if you ever ask them again, like, hey, can we get these resources? They say, well, last month we had. And so that's kind of made it a little bit more challenging to address problems like in a real sense.
And part of and part of your responsibility as a student, and I'm listening, and I do appreciate the fact that you all have tons of responsibilities in this process. But one of the responsibilities when departments are not responding to you in a way that they need to or that gets to you, you got to make them. You got to know it. You have to help them hear your voice. Now, there's a delicate balance here that you got to strike, and everybody on this call knows it. I mean, your job, first and foremost, is get the heck out of these programs. You know, let's not mistaken why we're here and what we're doing. Your job is to get the heck out of here, you know, and get that education, you know, get your degree and move on. But in
Yeah,
the
we
process,
love you, but get out. We love you,
yes,
but get out.
yeah, you got, you know, but you also have some responsibilities to help the people who are coming behind you, help the departments do better. You know, some are more accepting of that than others. But the more you nudge and push while you're there, you push that envelope, you push the departments to do the right things and the better things that they need to be doing anyway. And I've had students over the years, as the warning I just gave you, I mean, they were dedicated to moving their departments down that road, committed, you know, but that's time consuming. It consumes parts of your, it consumes your energy and time. And, you know, I have to remind students every now and then of why they are there. And, you know, and I'm not telling you these aren't important issues, because these are very, very important issues and they need to be addressed. But none of you can take them on totally by yourselves in the short time you're going to be in these departments to change them. And that's the reality of that. You know, it's just very difficult to do that. And you you know, you make that push while you're there, do what you can, but do not forget what that bottom line is for you. And you might as well get used to trying to practice balancing those things out. Because I'm still trying to figure out how to balance out. I'm at the end of my career and I'm still trying to figure out how you balance out work-life balance and where that point is. I'm still trying to figure that out. I was talking to my wife here, I said, you know, when we go back to the office, I just, at this point in my career, I'm just not going to stay in the office till 6 and 7 o'clock every day. I could. You know, my point is, I'm dedicated enough, committed enough, I could. There's so much to be done, I could do that. But that's, you know, but the other side of that is not healthy. That, you know, that is not healthy. It doesn't help you with your sanity. It doesn't help your home life. You know, I'm still trying to figure those things out. Don't let anybody tell you that, you know, maybe I guess there are some people out there that get it figured out. I know more people that haven't gotten it figured out and still struggle with it, even as professionals in doing it, is trying to, you know where that balance is. And you know, and I'm not telling you, it may differ at different times of your life. And I will tell you, I used to travel on the weekends and do work for my organization. Didn't mind giving up weekends to do that. But when I had kids, you know, I told my president, I said, those days are gone. I can't do it. I'm not willing to sacrifice my family, my time with my kids. You know, he looked at me and goes, yeah, I understand. I said, I'm dedicated, still just as dedicated, but but the priorities changed. You know, basically the priorities changed. And I said, I've got this other thing in my life that it takes a higher priority, quite honestly, than doing work over the weekends and staying places and visiting. You just, you know, all of you will face that, and some of you may already be facing it. And you know, you're just trying to always figure out where that balance is, and you're recalibrating all the time. But you work at it. You just stay at it.
You can't be using the end. You have multiple chapters more to go,
Yes.
for which we will depend upon you. Hi, Carolyn here. So I want to add just quickly that yes, the balancing act will continue, but it also means that you formalize a lot of the things that you have concerns with. So it's good to do a Zoom meeting. It's good to post it in the chat. It's good to talk about it a little. But when you see that it's something that's coming up at least 2 or 3 times in your day, it means it's time to write it down. Once you write it down, then you could share it formally with another group, and then allow persons like Associate Dean Tabitha to move it up the chain, and then to those who are listening. And I am happy and continue to be happy to take those up to IU's leadership to ensure that we're having those conversations and making sure that students are getting what they need. We're here to serve you. It's not something that we're on the sidelines just watching. So if there's something that we're not seeing that's outside of our purview and you're experiencing it, please don't hesitate. And you all have my contact. If not, I know Tabitha has it and she'll reach out to us. But we continue to be committed. I know I met Ainsley, or Father Abraham, as they call him, in 2008. So that's almost 12 plus, 13 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
And we still continue to connect and find resources where needed and still work through the pain points. So as he says, once you're in, you're in. This is not a one and done. We're going to help you through the program, and we're going to help you through graduation and on to the next job, as well as to the next promotion. So there's a lot coming out of this. So Tabitha, thank you so much for hosting this session and allowing me to pop in for a couple minutes.
Carolyn, it's so great to see you and talk with you and hear you. Hear your voice.
Dr. Gentle-Genity and I are part of that very first group of partnering students that were allowed to come from Indiana to the Institute. So really excited that you could pop in today, Dr. Gentle-Genity.
Thank you. Thank you, Carolyn. It's good seeing you. Let me pivot this conversation just a little bit. You know, this summer we had, this past summer, we had the social unrest and things that swept the country and got all of our attention. Has your department and or IUPUI done things, said things right, made some changes that have been visible to you all as graduate students, postdocs, that you like, dislike? Are there some things that you would have liked to, that you would like to see the institution do that it hasn't done? Any thoughts on that? Any feedback on that in terms of the social unrest we experienced this past summer?
Well, if nobody else wants to speak up, I will
Thank you, Kiara.
exercise my vocal cords on this. And probably because I was going through qualifying exams all of last year, still in that process. You know, I was having these very high, very low emotions. I'm all over the place. But I really got to a point several times, including when I left the country a few days after January 6th, that once again, it just kind of seems like for everyone else, they're like, "Ooh, that's terrible. Whew, glad my family's safe." But as a Black student in my department and studying the things I study, none of it made sense anymore, and none of it seemed relevant anymore. And my department did not seem to come around to that. Sorry. And it's, you know, just, you know, even just saying the unrest, there was no response other than to start a diversity book club, which I'm sure is great for people to learn about things. But when you're used to being, you know, treated differently because of this, a book club's not enough. And for me, it was almost, you can't be offended by people once again trying to do something. It's just really weird, no offense to white folks, when white folks develop a book club on diversity and then say we've done enough. It is bizarre. And especially some of the ones that contravene the normal, even the hiding of the microaggressions and the racism, the ones that are chief amongst those who say we can teach what we want and do what we want because we have tenure and we don't have to diversify anything, are the ones in these book clubs now calling themselves diversity researchers. That for me was something that came out of, you know, my community crying out, and these people respond with a book club. I don't understand, and I'm not sure what I'm asking for. But that response for me was mind-boggling. While I'm still reading books about, you know, slave masters being the heroes of my discipline, we're sitting here having a book club. I don't have time to read that book. One, I don't have time to read Dr. Kendi right now. I gotta, you know, read about slave masters and write about their heroics. So yeah, in a time when big change should have come with the wave was there, and you know, I don't know, I kind of see the wave going again now.
Thank you very much for sharing that. And I'm sure you're not the only one that has that the same emotion, experienced the same things. You know, and I will share with you personally. During all that, I also had similar emotions in terms of being in an organization that you want to see the organization take a stand and do some things. And you know, it's rare that I will just drop everything. And I was so frustrated by what I was seeing or wasn't seeing that I wrote. And for me to sit down and write a letter to my president, but basically, you know, and you know, not bad man. I'm not casting aspersions in that direction at all. But I did write a very, I thought, one of the better letters I've written, I'll say that, about you know, and just saying, hey, as the leader of an organization, you need to do more. You should have done more, and your silence speaks volumes. And you know, as an employee of this organization, I don't believe you can stay silent. There are times in this life to be quiet, it is appropriate to be quiet. But this is not one of those times. And I wrote him this letter along those lines. You know, it's time for you to take a stand. And here's some things that I think you need to be saying and doing. And I actually got a response from him, and I was surprised. He goes, you know, he says, just hang on, because I was crafting my own things, and there's some things you pointed out in your letter that I am going to, because you said them better than I could say them, and I'm going to put them in my letter and making a statement for the organization. Because of the position SREB holds in this whole higher education milieu, if you will, it was 2 days later, he came out with a statement letter, you know, it's on the website, sends it to his board members and all these things. And yeah, my pieces of my comments were infused into his letter out. But it is being motivated to those who have the responsibility for administration or power within the departments within the university to express yourself, to let them know what they need to be doing or should be doing. I thought you put it very well. There was a wave coming through, and it was an opportunity for institutions to get on board and ride that crest, or just hang down in the trough and not get important things done. And really, and I see it this way. Now I'm double your ages, so I've seen this kind of thing before. And what I have, you know, not exactly the same, but similar kind of social unrest over my tenure in education. When you got 35 plus years, you will all start to recognize, if you stay in the game long enough, there are cycles, and there are things that come to bubble to the top and then go back down and will bubble again to the top. Well, this time, in order for what we saw this summer, I did not want to see us, as you say, for people to just pay some lip service to it and go, well, I've done enough, and walk away. I wanted to see, and wrote in my note to my president, that it is an opportunity to make structural changes so that 20 years from now, there isn't another riot in the streets, unrest, because nothing got done. Nothing changed fundamentally, structurally, nothing changed, because it's within these structures that drive our society, our culture, that we've got to make some changes. And I don't mean, and this is what I'm talking about. So corporate America jumped on board. You saw statements from the president, CEOs of all the Fortune 500s, organizations around the country. Those are great. And then, that's all well and good. But what those organizations, what those corporations actually do, it's got to be more than just telling people, well, here's what we're going to do. And who was at the table to develop that? And this is where I was, it can't be that one minority member on your board that was at that table, because that's not enough to change things. Basically, we have got to, there needs to be a conversation between the leadership, corporate and higher educational leadership, where people of color are at the table, or other minority groups. I'm not limiting to just people of color. Women, they've got to be at the table in on that decision making, so they can help formulate how the response is. Not being told what the response is going to be and you're reacting to what you're being told, but actually to be at the table to develop what those responses are going to be is where we got to get to. And that's, in your departments where, if they didn't do enough, you got to push folk as hard as you can while you're there, always keeping in mind, you got to get out of those programs. And, I'm going to temper everything I say to you all with, yes, but you've got to navigate getting out of those departments. Because at the end of the day, what you want from them is that credential that says you have achieved the qualifications that needed to earn this PhD and get the heck on out. And then we will fight those battles when you have all the credentialing behind you. And I mean, as you all as graduate students and postdocs have to temper what you do, what you say, with that always in mind. It's not fair. It's not the best way to bring about change rapidly within departments. It really isn't. But given where you're trying to get to and what it's going to take for you to get there, you have to approach those things carefully. It gets to be problematic otherwise, or it can be problematic for you. Because you remember I said when we started the conversation, your goal at the end of the day is to get out, right? We want you out the door, out of this thing, out here on this side of the equation, where you have more opportunities to bring about some change. Hopefully, as a result of the things like we do at the Institute, you're getting additional information, you're getting additional training that are going to help you get there. Tiara, and I hear the frustration. I hear it in your voice. I know the frustration. But your job at the moment is to get the heck out of there. Get your stuff, get your study, get your exams behind you, move it to the next level, get the proposal written, get it defended, and get on to candidacy and then on out the door. So you can join us on this next side and exercise more, because then you've got your credential to be at the table and fighting away at a different place, a different spot. And we can't lose sight of what your responsibility is in that. So
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So we got a couple more minutes here. Are there any questions or anything you all would like to ask me, put on the table for some discussion? You want to get some feedback from me or just from your colleagues on this call? Is something you want to put on the table that's important to you, that you just like to get some feedback? Dominique, anything?
So this was kind of on the last point, last question you asked about, over the last year, Is there anything that we wish that our institution would have done? And it seems like a lot of promises were made about change that was going to happen. And for it to be a year later now, and there's not any more faculty of color, at least in my department, but like across IU, I haven't necessarily seen the changes that everyone was talking about when the hiring freezes ended or are ending or whatever. And I understand that my responsibility now is just to get out, but when I don't see that kind of change after it was promised, it kind of makes me second guess whether or not I want to continue down the faculty track, because it seems like more work than would be worth it. So I don't know if you have thoughts about how to stay optimistic or when to know when to get out.
Yes, a couple thoughts. Do not be discouraged. These are big systems, and bringing about change within systems is difficult. Even under the best of circumstances, is difficult. And we need more folk like you on the other side. I mean, the reason I do what I do, because there's the recognition that we need more people of color, of different genders in these institutions, having their voices heard, having their input, being at, if you will, tried and true, being at the table, so that when these policy decisions are being put forth, that voice is carrying some weight to be in that discussion. Right now, the problem is we don't have, that voice is not at the table. That's why I was saying those structural girders that operate the system the way it does, we got to change them. We have to change some of those. We got to have people seated at the table, engaged. And again, I'm not talking about one, that one representative, because one representative, it does not carry enough weight during those kinds of discussions to bring about lasting change or enough change. You have to have multiple voices at those junctures where you really can start to see shifts in attitude, shifts in the way people interact with one another, to do that. And the way we're going to do that is to have more underrepresented people at those tables and in the departments, teaching the courses, bringing those views of the world to the table, teaching students, from those alternative perspectives. I mean, that is critical to helping people think more critically about what is going on, what they're doing, questioning the theories that exist within your respective fields. I mean, that is critical to bring about that kind of change. And by participating, I've been at this long enough to see our students move through the process. They get in there, they're playing the game, they become department chairs, deans, provosts. We've got people on the cusp. We're going to get some presidents pretty soon that are on the cusp of making that jump to the presidencies, because there's some that have got that kind of ambition. That's where they want to be. That's the kind of impact they want to have, is the lead an institution. We've got a few that are right there. And, and I can't tell you how that thrills me that we got folk in this process that are making a difference. And so I say to you, don't let it discourage you. Think about it, it needs you, because it needs your voice at the table, and you're the kind of person that's going to really be able to bring about that kind of change by being there, not if you will, agitating from the outside, but agitating from the inside, because you're right there at the table and you can help make those kind of policy changes, departmental level, at the school level, at the institution, or at the college level, at the institutional level. I played the game, and I get to do it at the regional level. And I found myself well placed to really make a change. And that's, people say, well, you stuck with this thing for 30 some years. I said, yeah, I did. And it wasn't that I couldn't move, but it was that I saw myself being uniquely positioned to really make a difference. And so I stuck with it because I have access to political leadership, to monies at the state level. And if you can influence at those kind of levels, you know, you can make some things happen. You can make a difference. The problem is when I look behind me, I don't see a lot of folk that look like me behind me. That's what scares the bejeebies out of me, is that I look back and I'm not seeing folk behind me that look like me, that are getting in position where when I'm not here, that they'll be able to take over and run with this thing and push this even further down the road. And no, I tell you, just personally, that scares the heck out of me, that I'm not seeing people of color right behind me in my type of organization, at this type of level, that where they have access to political power in states where you can, you know, because you can influence things from there. And that worries me. You know, and maybe it does for everybody who gets old, and you look back and go, well, where's the next me coming along? Where are they? That's why I'm training, you know, and I'm trying to be involved and importantly positioned to help train you all, so that you hear what I'm saying, that you got the skill level, you got the credentials, where a Tabitha can be right where I am. You know, 2 years from now, she could be where I am, because she's had experience in the college.
You aren't taking her from us. No.
Or Dominique, you know, I'm just saying, I'm trying to get as many of you all positioned so that you can make that next step and be in positions like this, and see where organizations like the Southern Regional Education, I mean, there are other organizations where you can, you know, you can have a sphere of influence and really make a difference in policy, folks' lives, whichever, or both, you know, or both. Well, I want to be mindful of all of your times and fatigue of being on these Zoom calls. I appreciate the opportunity to have some conversation with you. I hope you heard some things that made you think a little bit, giving you some food for thought. Tabitha, certainly, if you, doing my bio, you know how to get to me. I'm available to talk to any of you. Be happy to do that. If you got questions and things that you didn't feel comfortable about talking out loud today and want to have a quieter conversation about an issue or something, be more than happy to talk with any of you. You know, I do avail myself to scholars when there are issues and concerns that they would like to address. So again, thank all of you for taking time out of your days to join in and listen and participate. Appreciate that very much.
Yes,
Thanks, Dr. A.
you
All right,
so
thank
much,
you.
Dr. A.
Thank you.
Yeah, all right, hang in there,
Remember,
girl.
6 o'clock
It's gonna be
talk.
good.
Good day.
It's gonna
Bye.
be good. Carolyn,
6
good
o'clock
seeing
talk
you.
and another
Same
talk
here.
tomorrow for faculty. So spread the word and get your mentors in there.
Yes,
Thank
that's right. Talk to your mentors, and because I am doing another talk with faculty and staff tomorrow that'll cover some of this, but some other issues as well for them. But you know, if you say, hey, my department hadn't gone as far as it should have, get them to tune into that that discussion tomorrow. All right, thank you all. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone. Thank you,
y'all.
Dr. A.
Have a good day.
All righty.